Welcome to XYPN Radio, where your host Alan Moore brings you into a community of fee-only financial planners who want to profitably and successfully serve Gen X and Gen Y clients. If you're ready to get the knowledge you need from leaders in your field, learn from forward-thinking advisors, and take action on your own goals, XYPN Radio is the show for you. Here's your host.
Hello and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I'm your host, Alan Moore, and I'm excited to have XYPN member Eric Gabor, founder of Eagle Grove Advisors, on the show today. Eric grew up in an entrepreneurial household with a lawyer for a father and a tax preparer for a mother. He has spent his entire career as a financial advisor, but realized early on that he wanted to be working with a different client base than most firms were working on. He ultimately launched his own firm in 2016, and we talked about the struggle of his first year, with him seeing very little interest from prospects and pretty limited revenue. He powered through, though, and is projecting over 6 figures of revenue in year 3. Eric's been working in his mom's tax practice since he launched his firm, so he has a fully integrated service model that includes financial planning, investment management, and tax preparation and projections. Given that he lives in a very high tax state, the tax planning is critical to his clients, and he signs on a lot of clients that are very keen on that service. Eric is now having one prospect meeting a week, and we talked about how his clients are finding him and where his focus is going forward. Probably the most exciting thing he said, to me anyways, was that with the firm he's built, it allowed him to spend 5 months out of the country over the last 2 years, which is really his dream. And that's why we're so excited to continue supporting entrepreneurs, is so that they can be sure they're living their own great lives while helping their clients live their great lives. Support for today's episode comes from Orion Advisor Services. Liberate yourself from the back office tedium, slowing your growth with Advisor's easy-to-use, easy-to-scale portfolio management technology platform. Supporting a range of performance reporting, fee billing, trading, compliance, and client experience needs, it's tech that works as hard for you as you do for your clients. Build a better business so you can build a better life with Orion Advisor. You can find any of the additional resources that we mentioned during the episode at xyplannynetwork.com/166. Also, be sure to go to xyplannynetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN Radio listeners. It's a community of advisors we've all been looking for that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplannynetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview with Eric. Hey, Eric, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
So just give listeners a quick overview of you and your practice, sort of where you're located, how many clients you have, if you have any type of niche, client focus, how long you've been in business, just the highlights, and then we'll dig into the details.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alan. So I launched Eagle Grove Advisors June 16th, 2016, based in Jersey City, New Jersey, which is right across the Hudson River from Manhattan. My clients, I right now have about 27, 28 clients, but I really consider core households. I have like 21. I have 7 million in AUM. I'm expecting another 1.5 million to come over in the next 90 days or so. Yeah. And then I have 15 clients on that XY monthly retainer model, with the average retainer around $265 a month.
265 a month. Okay. So real quick. So 28 you said 28 clients, 21 households. So does that just mean 7 of your clients are married, or are there some more complexities there?
There are smaller clients that I have AUM with.
I see.
Kind of the sub 1,000 in revenue clients that wanted me to open accounts for them and kind of help them with the asset management, but they don't get the core financial planning and the tax services.
Okay.
That the full suite clients, the core households get.
All right. Yeah, I definitely want to dig into the service model, because I think you're doing that very uniquely. So just by way of background, sort of how did you get into financial planning? I guess, was this always your career, or did you find it later on?
Kind of. So I grew up in a household where money was very open. My parents would talk about it a lot. They would educate us about money. I was very fortunate. My mom was always very frugal. One of my favorite stories is my parents were saving up for a house, a down payment, and the ice cream truck was coming around. And I asked my mom for $1 like any other kid would ask for. And she said, "Hey, Eric, we could get 6 of those ice cream bars for $2. And she drove me to ShopRite. And I was like, that was like my first memory of financial planning. So my mom's actually in accounting. She has a tax business. In 6th grade was during the .com boom or bubble. And I started an AOL stock trading account, and my parents gave me some money to invest. probably around $2,000. And within a few weeks, it turned into about $15,000. And I was giving stock tips out to all my teachers at school. And that was my first investment lesson. I swear I got pulled into kind of the teacher's lunchroom, and then I was giving out .com stock tips.
Oh, that's awesome. And like the worst thing, it always used to terrify me when clients would say, oh yeah, like I invest some stocks on the side and I did really good. It's like, oh no, I know what's coming.
Yeah. So, and just to give the listeners kind of like my age, I was in sixth grade when this was going on. So you had people investing what a 12-year-old was telling them to invest in. So whenever I see those CNBC headlines like the crypto millionaire 14-year-olds, that could have been me. But unfortunately, my mom didn't let me diversify out of that stock, and it ended up going down to nothing. It was, I still remember the name. It was mypoints.com. I think they're around in some capacity now still. But yeah, that was my first lesson with investing. I was always interested in the markets. I took AP economics in high school. I was a finance major at Penn State. When I was graduating, it was kind of the financial crisis. So I thought maybe I had to pivot and change my career path. But luckily, I was able to land a job as a financial planner right out of school, which was in 2010. So it wasn't the worst time in the financial crisis, but things weren't great still.
But no one was hiring.
No.
I mean, I remember that time well because I was graduating around that same time. I mean, no one was hiring. It was amazing that, I mean, I know the class before me, everyone had jobs in like November for May graduation, and almost none of us had jobs graduating. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, I was one of the fortunate ones. Yeah, I actually thought about going to law school during that time.
Yep. What else should you do?
My father's an attorney, and he spent his whole life telling me not to become a lawyer, even though I think he loves what he does. So I took a LSAT review course, but luckily I was able to kind of find that career path that I wanted in financial planning.
So tell me about that first job and sort of that first position. Were you, sort of a paraplanner role, more of an associate, or I guess just talk to me about that first job.
Yeah, so I landed at the ACO company, which is a subsidiary of Goldman Sachs. I think I accepted the job a few days before Blankfein testified in Congress. So
wow, what a timing!
Yeah, Goldman didn't have the strongest reputation, but ACO was a fantastic choice to start my career as an analyst.
And ACO, are they the ones that specialize in like high income executives, or am I mixing that up with a different company?
You are 100% correct. So their business model is it's actually retainer based for the most part. So they pitch it to companies, Fortune 500 companies, and they say, hey, your executives, your top C-level executives are really busy with their job. Let them outsource their personal financial planning, and you'll impute the cost and pay for it as a executive perk.
So, I mean, ACO's a big company. I mean, they're still a big hirer. I guess, what was the career path there for you? I mean, how long would it have taken you to make financial planner or lead planner, that sort of thing, in a big company like that?
Yeah, so it probably, I would say 4 or 5 years. So it wasn't that long.
Yeah, not too bad.
No. And they gave a lot of responsibility early. I was talking to clients within a month of being put on a team, writing emails, answering phone calls, giving advice. ACO's training is awesome. It's 6 weeks of intensive training. And my analyst class was very small. I was an analyst class of 1 in my office.
That's awesome.
Typically, it was like 10, 12. So it was a very light year. Goldman had a hiring freeze still, and they kind of squeaked me in, which was nice. So I got that real good experience, went through that 6 weeks of training. I think I probably could have come close to passing the CFP exam after that 6 weeks of training. That's how good ACO training was.
That's awesome to know they have that in-house.
Yeah, they used to do something called ACO U when it was a smaller organization. This is many years before my time, where they used to send you up to Albany, and it was almost like a classroom setting. But yeah, it's very strong education-wise, lots of continuing trainings. And I enjoyed my time there. I was only there for about a year and a half.
So what caused you to want to leave at that point?
So there's a few things. ACO, as Goldman, they're not fee only. And towards about a year in, I've realized that what an essential part of products were in their kind of business strategy of selling whole life, annuities, structured notes, things of that nature. And I may have made a smart aleck comment during a training. And when they were talking about market volatility, and they asked us and this was an investment training, and they asked us what we would do. And I think I said something about an annuity. We would sell them an annuity. And then I got called into one of the leaders of the office, and my boss got called in as well. And we had a conversation about that. After that conversation, I knew that this wasn't the path I was probably going to stay on. And I started exploring kind of fee-only firms and started learning that there was a side of financial planning that didn't involve product sales and the annuity strategies and whole life insurance.
So I thought that story was going the opposite direction. I thought you were going to say they fussed at you for, suggesting an annuity might be appropriate. So you were being sarcastic and making it known that that wasn't your preferred strategy, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm a very honest guy. I say what I think, which could get me in trouble at times.
It does us all.
But yeah, probably looking back, it probably wasn't the most appropriate thing to say because we were sitting with the head trainer and the investment guy, so there was no insurance people in the room.
Fair enough. So started looking for fee-only position. I guess what was the next step then? Yeah,
so I landed at Steve Lockshin's first RIA, Convergent Wealth Advisors. They were a firm based in Potomac, Maryland. They worked mostly with families with $10 million and up. They were fee only. At the time, they were owned 50% by City National Bank, which is kind of a West Coast, LA-based bank. They're expanding their New York presence right now, but it's a bank of the stars. I found their story to be really interesting, both City National and Convergent. City National really got their start, and they love telling the story. Frank Sinatra's son got kidnapped, and he went calling around banks to get ransom money. And City National opened their vault on a Sunday to give Sinatra money to get to pay the ransom. And then Sinatra went around telling all his Hollywood friends and people in the performing arts industry to start banking with City National. So that's kind of their niche. So I worked at Convergent, had a lot of famous people. So actors, musicians, athletes, a lot of big businesses, clients that became liquid.
Yep.
It was a true multifamily office. I think we had about $12 billion in management for maybe 110, 115 families. So the account sizes were fairly large. One of the relationships that I was probably the third or fourth seat advisor on had $1 billion. So this was big money. This wasn't my humble Central Jersey upbringings.
Sure.
It was flying around in private jets, eating at very fancy New York restaurants that I had that I would never normally go to. And really interesting. It was very investment focused. So they ran a series of pooled funds. But Convergent was very into continuing ed. So they covered your education 100%. So when that offer was made to me, I decided to enroll in probably the most expensive CFP program in the country, New York University's program, which was awesome. They have out of this world faculty there, and they really taught me a lot. So I decided to go down the CFP path. Convergent, within a few months of being hired, I realized that it probably wasn't the place for me. I worked in the New York office, which there was only 3 or 4 team members there. We actually worked in City National's office. So I felt like a little bit kind of outside the regular group, the core employees, kind of an afterthought. So yeah, I was there probably just over a year, and I got a random LinkedIn message from some guy I kind of knew. So ACO, when they got bought by Goldman, they established something called the Goldman Sachs Family Office, which was an ACO serviced office that serviced the partners of Goldman Sachs. It was based on kind of ACO's model, but just internally at 200 West, which is Goldman's main office. So these 2 guys from the Goldman Sachs family office that I kind of knew, they reached out to me to come work with them. They recently left the Goldman Sachs family office because Goldman Sachs said, you're only allowed to work with current partners of Goldman. So they had a Rolodex of maybe 120 former Goldman partners that left Goldman Sachs that they've had some kind of relationship with. And one of the former partners kind of gave them the push to come start a firm and reach out to these former partners of Goldman, because former partners of Goldman, when they retire, most of them don't really actually retire. They go on to do something else. So I joined AJ Wealth probably after a year at Convergent and started working with them. I was third advisor they hired, probably the second highest in seniority. And they pitched it as, help us build this organization. We're less than a year in. They only had $30 million in management. And I kind of laughed at first and I said, my average relationship's like 30 million. How do you have a sustainable RIA in Manhattan with only $30 million in revenue and you're able to hire me? I took a chance with them. And when we talked about me joining, they put on the table some equity that possibly could come in the future. Unfortunately, it never came, but I had an excellent experience at AJ. I helped them craft their investment strategy. I helped with the training. I was a pseudo compliance officer there. I kind of rolled up my sleeves and I learned what it really took to build an RIA. So it was really good experience before launching my firm. And we experienced some huge growth at AJ. We went from the $30 million to, I think, $600 million within 3 years. So they were right that there was a golden opportunity to service these former partners of Goldman, hedge fund, PE guys that built their own shops. And then they introduced us to their partners. And it was a big referral business. And I think when I left, they had 21 or 22 employees.
Wow, that's quite the ride. And how long were you there to go from that small to that large?
It's 2.5 years, I believe.
Wow. Talk about that. That's the whole, like, getting a seat on a rocket ship.
Yeah. And I really took a liking to the marketing aspect. So I was reaching out to all the RIA surveys, like the rankings, and we were top 10 in like fastest growth for the years I was there. And I think they're still pretty high up there with their growth. They had Andrew Cooper and Justin Valesco with the best mentors I could have had. They really taught me a ton, and I really enjoyed working with them. And they built a really solid RIA in the financial district of Manhattan.
So I guess why leave? It's that whole, you have the golden ticket, equities in your future, you're making good money, you're doing the work you want to be doing. So what could possibly not be satisfying about that role? It's a tough decision, I assume.
Yeah, to be totally honest, I wasn't really enjoying it towards the end. The last 6 months I was there. The first 2 years I was kind of in paradise. It was like, but I was working a lot and I was only 27 at the time. I was starting to feel career burnout very early on.
Yeah, that's really young to feel that way.
I would get into the office, 8:30. And then most days I would eat all 3 meals at my desk. And
wow,
it was very intense. We were still running pretty lean, so I still had a ton of responsibilities, and I was the lead advisor for many relationships. And I just stopped having fun. These weren't the type of clients that I thought that I was relatable to. I was a kid that went to Penn State. Most of my clients went to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Wharton. They all had kids. They sent their kids to private school. I grew up going to public school. So it was just I don't think long-term it would have been a good fit. And I started listening to this podcast, to be totally honest, that summer. So in 2015, started listening to XY's podcast. I obviously read Sophia Barer's first year expenses and said, wow, this is actually a feasible model. And I thought, hey, I was a single guy, no kids. I was dating my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, for about a year. And we were renters. So I said, both my parents, they own their own businesses. I saw the perks of owning your own business and decided now's the real chance to take a chance on myself and kind of roll the dice and see if this could work out and see if I could be self-employed at 28 and build something special that I'm proud of.
I've said it before on here. It's like getting out of a warm bed, and yours was a little more uncomfortable than that possibly. But, it is a tough leap. Looking back now, it's like, oh yeah, it was a great decision. I'm sure you're sweating bullets at the time over, do you give up that high paying job to take the risk, recognizing that it is a risk, but it's obviously worked out. So it sounds like I always like to say, there's these phases of like early on in your business, that first, I'll say the first 6 months is like, this is amazing. I'm an entrepreneur. And then reality sets in. And then there's probably a year of like, what did I do? Like, why did I do this? And then we sort of come out of that and it's in that, sort of settling in and saying, okay, like I've quote unquote made it. Like I feel comfortable. I'm not, thinking about going and get another job. I'm on the trajectory that I want to be on. I'm not there yet, but I'm headed there. So it sounds to me like you're in that third phase. Were those the phases you experienced, I guess, in terms of your entrepreneur journey?
Yeah, I'll go through my personal phases. So the first 12 months, and I have the numbers written down because I know you always ask. So the first 12 months, first 6 months before launch, I was mostly working with my mom on the tax practice. So I was trying to build my own tax book. And my mom has probably 350 households she works with. They're mostly blue collared and older, and they're probably not good fits for my practice. So I didn't really market those clients. But I built up a nice little tax book, and I started talking to people very vaguely about what I plan to do in the future. Obviously, you can't be marketing before you launch the firm. So I got through tax season. I passed my enrolled agent exam during that time. It took me about 6 months. Scott Gill was great with getting me set up. And then I launched on June 16th, and I sent out an email blast to all kind of my contacts, my people I went to college with, people who I've worked with in the past, kind of announcing Eagle Grove, which it was tough to come up with a name. If you figure out Eagle Grove, Eric Gabor, my initials, I didn't overthink it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, don't spend a lot of time. I mean, your name is obviously important, but something like Eagle Grove, no one's ever said, why'd you name it Eagle Grove? And a few of my prospects have actually figured out that that's my initials. Yeah, so I launched on June 16th, and I sent out that email, and I got probably 100 responses back. Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. But no one said, hey, Eric, I'm really interested, or blah, blah, blah. So the first month, luckily, one of my clients from AJ Wolf signed her daughter up, who just graduated college. So she was my first client. So I got that in the first month. And my fiance is in tech. She was at Twitter at the time and introduced me to one of her friends who signed up as well. So I got 2 clients very early on. And then it was quiet that whole summer that I launched. And it was frustrating. I had a lot of time on my hands. I was trying to network, meet a lot of people, but nothing really was working, and a lot of frustration. I was hard on myself. As you said, I gave up a lot of money working on Wall Street and working in that environment. But yeah, I mean, my first big break came when a $1 million plus NAFA relationship showed up at my door and gave me some kind of revenue. So yeah, my first 12 months, only $16,000 in revenue, just to put it in perspective. So it wasn't great. The next 12 months, I got my revenue to about $55,000. And now my current run rate is about $105,000. And that excludes any tax revenue that I have. I probably have another $10,000 in my own book of tax revenue. And then I have some income from helping my mom with her clients. So
$55,000 in your first full calendar year. And do you know off the top of your head, do you have expenses in front of you to match against that?
$16,000 in the first 12 months.
First 12 months. Got it.
Yeah. And then $55,000 in the second 12 months. And then.
Oh, I see. Okay. So that would have been, $16,000 from June 2016 to June 2017.
You got it.
Okay. And then about $55,000 from about a year ago to now. And now your run rate is $105,000 for the next 12 months, basically starting about a month ago.
Yep. You got it.
Okay.
Expenses. My parents were always very big on, with their businesses, running it very lean. So in the first year, I kind of did everything myself. I didn't really outsource anything. I built my website. I found someone on Fiverr that sold me a template for maybe $200, and I built it all myself. My fiance was a journalism major in college, so I got a free editor, which was great. Yeah, and I kind of worked out of my house. I found a great deal for some workspace in Manhattan at the time for $100 a month. So I was going in there for a little bit. And then I realized I wanted to move the firm to Jersey City instead of being a Manhattan-focused firm. And that's kind of, once I moved it to Jersey City, I think I was getting better results. And I've been getting a pretty good constant stream of new people pinging me and setting up meetings. I probably have, in the last 6 months or so, I probably average one prospect meeting a week. So kind of hit my groove later on. That iceberg image you always see shared on Twitter, very true. It wasn't all roses. But I built this very deliberately. I found clients that I really like to work with, people I wanted to work with for the next 30 years. I got to travel a lot in the first 2 years of my firm. I've been to Asia 3 times since launching my firm. And working remotely is great. Clients are typically understanding if you tell them, if you make time later in the night or so and align your hours. My favorite XY story was I marketed a client via video when I was in Bali, and he signed up.
Whoa, nice.
Yeah. I don't know if I violated any compliance because I was outside the US, but he was based in the US and it was over Google Hangouts, which was cool. So yeah, it afforded me a lot of opportunities to do things during the first 2 years that I probably wouldn't have been able to do. But now I'm pretty confident on how the business is going in the future and the direction. I think that moment happened in December where I feel like, okay, Eric, you made it. We could relax a little bit. I don't think I would have to go back to working for anyone for the rest of my career unless I choose to do that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. Because, that was a tough first 6 to 12 months. It's really impressive that you made it through that. I guess, how do you keep going whenever you're looking at the book saying, where are the clients? You make $16,000 in your first 12 months. You don't get warm and fuzzies from that. So I guess, how do you power through that to, keep moving forward?
So I very important and to have a good runway. I waited till January at AJ Wealth to resign. My bonus was paid out for the year. Then I had a full year working with my mom, or a full 6 months working with my mom tax season. So I had some money coming in, probably around $45,000 via taxes plus my bonus. And then I figured, okay, Eric, if you gain $20,000 a year in business for the Eagle Grove, this is going to be a feasible business at one point. You may have to do taxes to kind of bridge that income gap. But yeah, it worked out. Okay.
You really gave yourself some runway. So, how many years so you said, you could have made 20,000. So if you made 20,000 the first year, 20,000 or 40,000 year 2, 60,000 year 3, you would have been okay.
Yeah. In my mind, that was kind of the worst case scenario. If I was doing any less than that, it would have been going onto the CFP job board and starting to find another position.
All right. And that's what we talk a lot about is be sure you have the runway. I hear people that, okay, I'm going to start a firm. I need to be making 40,000 right out of gates. Good luck. Unless you're bringing those assets over, you have that revenue coming with you. It does take time to sort of find your groove and find your spot. Some people do it faster than others, but you need to be prepared for a $16,000 year one because that may happen.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I've talked to other planners. I'm very close with many of the XY members, and my experience, I don't think is that far out of the norm.
No, not at all.
Some people, like you have Sean Teslaska, who's I'm very close with in my launcher group, and he was crushing it the first year. And I was trying to figure out what I was doing differently. And I think I never was in a sales and marketing role, so I think the confidence factor was a little bit of a hazard to me. It kind of held me up from the growth. I was getting prospect meetings, but I just wasn't closing them. And then I developed my story. It's important to have a really good story and to have the confidence in yourself. I worked with the clients that I'm working with right now. They didn't care about that I knew about Gratz and Crutz and Cuperts and all that good stuff. Because that wasn't their needs. Most of my clients are Gen X and Gen Y. It was a very interesting transition from working with that ultra high net worth space to working with kind of my peers, really. That's most of my client base, I would say.
So one of the things that you do talk about is the tax service. So it sounds like your mom owns a tax business. Is she a CPA doing tax returns?
So she's not a CPA. Her background is actually in actuarial science. So she's very good with numbers and math. But she was originally an office manager at a tax firm, and then they trained her to do taxes. And then she ended up forming a partnership with two CPAs, and Yeah, and it's been a really good career for her. I think she's been in business maybe 10, 15 years. Yeah, so that was great. And I integrated tax planning because it was something I feel very confident with into my practice. I think it's very important that advisors, you see any study and they say clients are always looking for tax efficiency and tax strategy. So not being scared of taxes is a very good skill to have. And I think I've won a few clients because I offer that service opposed to other advisors that don't and say they don't really do too much tax planning. And I think it adds to the stickiness of the client relationship. Like I haven't had a true termination yet, which is remarkable. The first year anxiety, I was very nervous that like clients would terminate after I got their financial house in order. But yeah, I think that having the taxes, the investment accounts, and doing the financial planning, the whole suite of services, kind of almost the family office services for millennials and Gen X and Gen Y.
Yeah. So just curious, I mean, it sounded like you were working at your mom's, obviously getting some side hustle income, learning a lot about taxes. So you're still you're still working with her during tax season then?
I am. Obviously, I scaled back my hours a little bit as my Eagle Grove is growing. But yeah, I probably dedicate 2-3 days a week. But during tax season, I'm working more than 5 days a week. So I'll probably do 3 days working for her and then maybe 3.5 days working on Eagle Grove. Yeah. And all my clients.
Do you feel like you can keep up during tax season? Because I know that's one of the issues I hear from advisors that do taxes and financial planning is they just say, look, during tax season, I can't grow my practice because I'm just buried in taxes. And by the time I get done with that, then I'm out trying to market and that doesn't really work till Q3 to Q4. Like, how have you been able to balance, doing the tax work and being super busy during that, 3-month stretch while also growing your business?
Yeah, it's nice that tax season kind of has an end date, kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I think during tax season is usually my best time for marketing. When tax season happens, people realize that they're in a mess financially and they need someone to help them out. So yeah, making time on weekends and evenings and mornings is really important. And your day is obviously extended. You're working longer hours. Luckily, my mom's firm, we do have some help. So I'm able to give them some job responsibilities with either inputting tax data entry and things of that nature. And my mom's really flexible. If I have a great prospect in Jersey City, she's not going to make me come into the office. She's an easy boss on that end.
Fair enough. Sometimes parents can be the hardest or the easiest. You just never know.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that taxes are really at the center of the way you do planning. And I find that many advisors have different philosophies here, but tax planning is one of those things. It is probably the easiest tangible money saver that we can show our clients on, hey, we did this work and we saved X number of dollars on taxes. How does tax planning, how does it become the center of the relationship? How does your process differ, in your opinion, from other advisors in a way that really puts tax at the focus? Or is it just an ancillary, I guess, side thing that you're doing that's providing a ton of value?
No, I think there's varying degrees on how important the taxes are to the relationship. Like I have just straight W-2 people, married couple, they all live in one state and they have just straight W-2 jobs. And you really can't do too much tax planning. But then you have clients that have small businesses and helping them understand the QBI, the qualified business income deduction, and different retirement plans and how you can save money with opening a SEP IRA or a solo 401k, doing tax projections. My clients don't like surprises in April, so they like to know how much they're going to owe and make estimated payments throughout the year. I like to pitch it also as when I talk to prospects is they ask me, I tell them how many times do you talk to your tax preparer? And they're like, I usually show up in March and give them my material and then do the return. I understand everything that's going on in their financial life throughout the years. You're not going to miss any 1099s or things like that. So people like it all in one house. Does that answer your question?
It does. Everyone's process is a little bit different. Just curious if you feel like your actual planning process is different because of the tax focus, or if it's more, maybe it's hard to differentiate between it being at the center versus just being one of the, 7 or 8 services that you provide.
Yeah. New York State and New York City is ultra complex, especially for small business owners. There's a million taxes you got to pay between New York City tax, UBT tax, MCMT tax, federal tax, New York sales tax. So people that are subject to all those taxes, obviously taxes are more of a centerpiece in their relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. New York and I guess California are especially good states to do a lot of tax planning in.
Yeah,
it's not just federal. I mean, like you said, there's so many layers and so many dollars. I mean, do you have a good way of tracking tax savings over time, since that is such a huge value add that you're providing your clients?
I don't think I have a good way of tracking it, but I always make mention of, okay, we did this solo 401k, you put $45,000 in, your effective tax rate is 40%. We saved you X amount of dollars doing that. And kind of, I think it's important to kind of celebrate your wins with clients, the good things you do with them, and get them excited about it. So that's what I do.
Makes sense. So do you see any flow of clients coming over from the tax practice in either your work specifically there or just referrals from your mom?
So I actually tracked where all my clients came from, and I have the percentages. So as I mentioned, my natural market hasn't been the best and the strongest. So I only gotten about 10% of my clients from my natural market. Via Yelp, I've gotten about 5%. XYPN, I've gotten about 5%. NAFA, about 30%. Fee-only network, about 10%. Tax, about 11%. And then AJ Wealth has been an awesome resource for me. They've sent me most of my larger clients because they have a $2 million minimum. I played nice when I left, and I still kept in good contact with everyone over there. And they've sent me 7 relationships.
Wow.
And then referrals obviously have started coming in.
So really spread across the board. It sounds like NAPA's been a big win. Previous firm's been a big win, but a pretty diversified, groupings in terms of where they're coming from.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'll be intrigued to see how it changes over time, whether it's going to be more referrals, because I've started getting referrals, like clients have introduced me to family, friends, and stuff like that. So I'm starting to see that. And I think tax probably will be a bigger generator in the future if I continue still doing the taxes to offering it to outside Eagle Grove's clients. So, yeah.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about any other big, do you have any big marketing initiatives planned, or are you comfortable with sort of this growth rate? Because one prospect a week, that's not a slow flow of new clients. So are you doing anything or have anything in the works to be even more proactive, or, is what you've been doing really working for you?
Yeah, I recently hired Arlene because I had a lot of anxiety. Like I should be doing something else to get these clients in the door. And I've really had a good conversation with Arlene about that. And I feel like what I'm doing is working. I made some tweaks to my website. I may invest in some Google AdWords campaigns, but it's kind of the mindset of don't fix what's not broken. And I'm happy with taking on 1 client a month, that kind of growth rate.
Okay. And is that the goal is to try for, 1 new client a month?
I think for the time period now, yeah. I'm only 30 years old, so who knows where this practice is going to lead to, whether it be building a bigger enterprise, or I probably see myself merging with another XY member in the future, or someone else that's very similar to me that could add some kind of synergy. But yeah, I'm pretty happy between the tax revenue, and I'm making good money. I'm making similar to what I was making before. So I'm happy. I have a lot of time on my hands to do activities and travel a lot. I probably spent, 5 months out of the country aggregate over the last 2.5 years. So to be afforded that lifestyle and service my clients well, I'm happy at kind of continuing kind of the 1 client a month, and then possibly take on someone in the next 12 months to come work with me and kind of help me out once my revenue creeps up a little bit higher.
So do you have a goal revenue, or have you sort of hit it? It sounds like you're sort of relaxing, which is not a bad thing, but are you feeling like you're sort of there, or do you have some additional sort of financial goals that you want to hit?
I think I live in one of the more expensive parts of the country in northern New Jersey. So I don't think, I think I'm going to probably target a $250,000, $300,000 firm revenue, which would be me working probably with 60 clients or so. And I think that with a paraplanner supporting me, I could have a really great practice. And if I decide to get bigger and kind of build it out, I always have the option to do that.
Okay. So you mentioned, possibly merging. So talk to me about that thought. Like, is that something you're actively pursuing, or something you're just sort of chewing on, once the opportunity comes along?
Yeah, kind of did the dating with some other advisors, and we've talked about possibly merging in the future. Jersey City has a great XYPN population.
Yeah.
I think there's 5 or 6 of us here. I'm actually in an office complex with 3 other advisors. But yeah, it's so I think building out kind of your network is good, and finding someone that really aligns with you. Someone that has a tax background would be great in the future to work with. So I'm always kind of keeping my eyes open for someone that could really be a good fit. And I think I miss kind of the camaraderie of kind of being part of a team a little bit. So either hiring someone or merging or joining a bigger practice possibly could be an opportunity for me in the future.
Now, real quick, you said you were in an office complex with several other XYPN members?
I am. It's probably the only one in the country that
only one I'm aware of. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've had prospects walk out of my office and then go talk to Rob and Dana right after me. And then it was a really funny story. So I was in my elevator and I was rocking one of the XY conference shirts, and some guy's like staring at me, and I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he's like, "You're an XY, you're Eric Gabor." And I'm like, "Uh-oh, what'd I do this time?" And then he's like, "I just joined XY." So it was great. And then I told him, we basically schmoozed for an hour. I told him about what I did and kind of talked about the last 2 years. And then he decided to sign up and kind of build his office here at Jersey City co-share space. So there's 4 of us here.
That is hilarious. Yeah, that is a new one. That is not something that we see very often. But actually, I think Dana and Rob are on the list for. We'll be recording a podcast here in a couple weeks, so folks can hear from the whole building.
Yeah, shout out to both of them. They were great with getting started. Rob and I grabbed beers probably about 3 or 4 months before I made the leap to leave my job. So I've always been paying it forward. A lot of prospective XY members have always reached out to me, and I've shared the good, the bad, the ugly in the first 2 years. And it's always nice to get those referrals for XYPN and talk about all the great stuff that's going on in the network and seeing the growth. It's crazy that I think I was member when I joined, it was like 200 members.
Right.
I may have been member 200. And I think I was standing next to you over the summer when you hit 500 and you're already at 700. So the growth, I almost think it's like the California gold rush. But I think there's a lot more gold than there was in California, a lot more people to work with.
I was to say, I hope it's better than that gold rush. I prefer to compare it to like CrossFit's growth, since it's been sustained and everyone's benefiting from it.
Better analogy.
Sorry, I have to work in my my CrossFit addiction at some point. I haven't mentioned it in a while. So, yeah, I think as of this morning, there's about 730 members. So, we just see and just continue to see more and more advisors that just want to operate differently. They just want to do things their own way. They don't want to sell products. They want to work with young people. They want that community and camaraderie. And yeah, I mean, it certainly has well exceeded any expectations. I probably told you 200 exceeded our expectations because it did at the time. I think 200 would still be higher than we thought we would be today, just in terms of the advisors that joined up. But it's been fun, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I always enjoy going to the conferences. That's another tidbit. Like, go to XYPN Live every year. I'm going to my first NAFA conference this fall. It's always great to kind of surround yourself with similar people that are doing the same things and kind of hear about their wins and struggles, and kind of gives you a nice jolt of energy, kind of hearing refreshing stories from your peers.
Yeah, and hearing the truth. I know we want people to have honest assessment and really good information before making the leap, before diving into this thing of entrepreneurship. I mean, and this year I'm so excited to have Michael Gerber as one of our keynotes, because he's like the guy on the myth of entrepreneurship, of what we think of entrepreneurship and what it really is, and being sure that we build the business that supports our great life, and that's something that you've been doing and hopefully continue to do and stay focused on. Is you don't want to accidentally grow the business to the point where you can't travel anymore, if that's what's important to you, and you have the ability to make that decision. And it's just so good to hear from other members that are doing a lot of those types of, some have built the wrong business and are backtracking, but most are conscious of what they're working on.
Yeah, no, definitely. So that's one thing I'm working with Arlene, is just kind of getting that focus of what I want to take this business next. What do I see the next 24 months looking like, which is cool.
Fantastic. So one of the things I do want to talk about is just your overall service model, because you said you have an average monthly fee for the 15 clients that you're working with of $265 a month, which is great. It's probably a little higher than average coming out of the gate, which is good. We're always encouraging advisors, whatever number you come up with for your monthly fee, raise it by 50 to 100% and settle there to get started. So talk to me about sort of your overall service model and the different types of services you offer clients. It sounds like you have a couple different, fee structures and service models.
Yeah, definitely. So I have that 21 core clients, and then I have 7 additional clients that have under 50,000 in assets with me that don't kind of get the full financial planning. But the 21 clients I have are either pay me a retainer and a combination of AUM or strictly AUM. I have some larger relationships, obviously. $7 million in AUM is not all millennial money. Sometimes clients have referred their parents to work with me, which was really cool. So yeah, most of my clients that work with me are new families, people that are just starting out, either having their first kid, just getting married, or buying their first home. So it's very module based. The first meeting is usually kind of an overview of your financial health. It's like kind of going to the doctor's office after neglecting to go for 2 years. So people come in, I do a full financial plan with them, tell them the good, the bad, the ugly. One thing I picked up from other XY members is the SWOT analysis. I really love that, kind of the one-page financial plan.
So SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, I believe, which is typically for businesses. So how do you apply that to someone's individual financial situation?
So like strengths, maybe they're high earners. Weaknesses, maybe they don't really have a clear investment plan. Opportunities, maybe if they're kind of a solo person, they're a contractor, they have the opportunity to add more income. Threats are usually pretty standard: disability, death, things of that nature, credit cards, debt building up too much. Most clients that come to me don't have any debt. My typical clients probably make over $300,000 for a family household. So they are higher earners. And I did the mistake of kind of quoting fees low in the beginning. Luckily, I raised my fees after my first 2 clients, so I didn't really get too many with low fees that I had to raise later on. Yeah. And then, so the first meeting is that. The second meeting is more cash flow and investment focused, kind of what money is coming into your accounts, what money is going out to your accounts, how much you could save, increasing retirement accounts. Then we look at estate planning. So I don't shy away from estate planning. I'm not an attorney. As I mentioned, the closest I got to being an attorney was taking the LSAT prep course. But I talk about it plenty. One of my favorite conversations is like the guardianship conversation. So I don't shy away from the estate planning, and I have 2 or 3 good estate planning attorneys that I feel very comfortable handing off my clients to. So that's a big thing. And then I've been really, because I've sold insurance in the past, I understand insurance. So I work with low load insurance services to offer the insurance planning for all my clients and walk them through that whole process. Most of my clients will meet probably 3 times in the first year, and then we'll be kind of on the semi-annual schedule.
So I am curious, because it's been a little while since I chatted with anybody about this particular topic, but how do you interact with low load insurance services? So for, disclosure, LLIS is one of the national sponsors of XY Planning Network. That being said, we receive 0 benefit from people actually using them. So I am curious sort of how you interact with them and how you leverage them in your practice. Because I know that is a big question for a lot of advisors on, no, I need to be able to do the term insurance because, I want to be able to do everything under one roof and provide a comprehensive service similar to how you're doing the taxes, tax planning. So I guess how have you structured that relationship so it works for your clients?
So we'll do like a need analysis like most other advisors will do. I'll give them my recommendation. I'll reach out to Brian's kind of my point guy at LLIS. He's been great. And go over anything and maybe some special planning, like if the client has a special needs kit or something like that. But mostly the term, I'll give them a recommendation and I'll send them to LLIS's website. They'll fill out the survey. LIS has been good about CCing me and keeping me involved in the conversation that goes on. And I follow up with the clients when things start to go dark and clients they cancel the appointment to get their blood taken or something like that. I'll follow up and I'll be really on top of them to remind them that this is important, that you're leaving your family susceptible to a really big crisis if you were to die prematurely and kind of suffer that income loss.
That was my experience. I haven't used their services a long time as an advisor, but it really was just about as the advisor trying to stay on top of what was going on in the insurance. Cause I always felt like sending a client off to some random broker or, 5 different insurance agents from names we all know was not ideal because they were just going to get email spammed for the rest of their life from those companies. Because I wanted to be able to interact and be able to provide that service while, not necessarily literally being the one to write the insurance and wanting to have an expert in the house, similar to how you have an estate attorney that you work with. So do you manage all of your investments in-house as well?
I'm happy you asked that because that would have been a big thing to leave out. So I use a temp. I feel very comfortable with the investments, but I just found that it would have been more efficient working with the temp and having a research kind of team working with me and being able to bounce ideas off of and do the trading and the billing. And so I'm responsible for all the custodial paperwork, and they kind of take over the rebalancing, the implementation, the billing, and also help me with the research. And it's a DFA-based temp out in San Francisco called Asset Dedication.
Asset Dedication. Okay.
Yeah, I decided very early on that I want to offer a service. I didn't want to go with Betterment Institutional. I wanted to offer something that differentiates me, and I like that they use the DFA funds. And I talked to a few of the TAMPs, and I felt like they were the best partner willing to work with me, and no minimums. And I sell it to clients as, hey, instead of just me doing your asset, I have a whole team, a bench behind me doing the investing, the research, and keeping eyes on the portfolio. And I've never really had big pushback from clients on that end.
So do you mind how much does Asset Dedication charge you or charge the client? And then how do you charge the client then on that service? Are you charging a separate AUM fee on top of, instead of? I guess, talk to me about the pricing.
Yeah, so Asset Dedication charges anywhere from 25 to 30 bips. And then I traditionally charge 95 bips on top of that. And I scale down as larger accounts happen. So I have some clients that will pay much less than the 95 bips.
So they're paying you 90 plus. Are they paying the asset dedication fee, or are you paying that on their behalf?
They are paying the asset dedication fee.
Okay.
And most of the AUM clients, I believe all my clients except one do have some sort of AUM with me, assets under management. But some of the larger clients, the ones that are paying, that have a few million or over $1 million, they're not paying that full 0.95. It goes down.
Okay.
And they're not paying the financial planning fee after they get over that $500,000 number. So if I'm doing the full suite of taxes and tax planning and full comprehensive financial planning, I feel good at where my fee structure is.
So just to clarify, it's financial planning, let's say on average $265 a month, plus your fee is 90 basis points for AUM plus asset dedications fee of 25 to 30.
95 basis points, but yeah.
95 for you. So let's call it 1.2 to 1.25 on the AUM side. And then are the tax services included in that monthly financial planning fee?
They are. And the larger AUM clients do get the tax planning included as well.
Okay. So it's included with the planning. As they hit that 500,000 mark, the planning fee goes away. And then they're sort of in this full suite of services where they're getting asset management, financial planning, and tax preparation and projections and all of that, all bundled in for that 95 basis points plus asset dedications fee.
You got it. Yep.
Cool. Okay. It's interesting. These are the tough decisions to make. And the ones that we get really caught up on, especially when we're launching, it's like, what's the perfect fee structure? And it's like, there isn't one. And sometimes your client base does lend itself to some sort of fee structure that can happen. But ultimately, it's just about having something you're confident in and being sure you're charging enough, which, based on your geographic location, you may be able to pull those planning fees up a little bit. If you were here in Montana, that may be a little higher than average. But, you're making good money. I feel like, it's over $3,000 for financial planning for, each year for a client. Plus you've got that AUM side. So, it's a great example of a structure that works and allows you some flexibility depending on, the size of client that's coming in to really be able to work with them.
Yeah, exactly.
So as we're coming to a close, I guess looking back over, the 2 years that you've been in business, any big takeaways or a couple recommendations that you have for newer advisors that are thinking about starting a business? I heard you say, come to XYPN Live for sure, member or non-member, come out to the conference. But any other takeaways or pieces of advice you want to, be sure you share?
Yeah, I like the idea of doing this early before your financial, because it's like having a kid. You're never going to have the perfect time to do this. So I think it's going to be easier doing it when you're younger and kind of your financial responsibilities are a little bit less. I was able to move out of Manhattan and kind of reduce my expenses by moving to Jersey City and able to make some sacrifices in life. So by doing it early, it allowed me, it was easier to make those sacrifices. Also, I think it's really important to find your tribe, have a good support group in the financial planning community. You should have like 2 or 3 BFFs in XY that you could share wins with and ask advice on. That's very important. And yeah, I think being lean in the beginning is really important. I hear too many times that advisors are paying $6,000, $7,000 on a website. And I've had so many people come into my office and say, your website was great. And it took me a few hours to make. And I did it myself, and I saved that $6,000 or $7,000 up front. So those are my key takeaways, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I think this will be very encouraging for folks. You're coming into that, you're in that, past that 2-year mark, really coming out of the what in the world did I do phase and really hitting your stride. So I appreciate you being willing to come on the show and share your career path with us.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I like to say that I just, at 2 years, you're no longer an infant and we're hitting adolescence.
Which means we think we know more than we do, right? We're belligerent, if nothing else.
Exactly. That may be the firm's puberty years, but who knows?
I love it. Awesome, Eric. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, Alan.
Support for today's episode comes to you from Orion Advisor Services. Simplify the complexities of running an advisory business with the industry's most integrated portfolio management technology platform. Built to reflect your needs, customized to achieve your goals, and delivered with the support you need to be successful. Get back to the business of serving your clients with technology that works for you. Learn more at orionadvisor.com. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes with myself and Kitsis, and to finally find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thanks so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You're not alone, and you're not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm. And that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.